Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
First of all, let me thank you. I've prepared 2 papers which I believe will be circulated because they'll not be projected. But if you can see, first of all, I want to agree with the Honorable Minister. I've done 2 pictorials. One of them is described as Africa at the dinner table. And if you look at Africa at the dinner table, Africa is on a plate and it is meat. And the diners at the dinner table are France, the United Kingdom, the United States, the European Union, the Chinese, and progressively the Arabs. And my second picture is the African hotspots. It's not visible from there. But if you look at Africa today, and you make a clean sweep with your mind, there are different conflicts of different intensity in Somalia, in northern Mauritania, in northern Mali, in Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of Congo, Guinea-Bissau, in the Cameroons, in South Sudan, and one can go on and on. And there is a sense in which Africa has always been alive to the question of interference. I will refer this audience, particularly those who are starting, to take time and read the 32 odd speeches that were made in the month of May 1963 by the then heads of states and government of independent African states, the 32 of them. And there are 2 speeches that I want to isolate for this presentation. One was by David Dacko of Central African Republic. And in thanking Emperor Haile Selassie and Kwame Nkrumah on that day, he said that we must never forget that the colonial power has not left us. We must recognize that he did not go willingly. And if we don't check them, they'll come back again. And what would little Central African Republic do against them? Today, he is right. Today, if we remember the activities of France and how they propped up the regime of Jean Bedel Bokassa, he was right. Today, as the Honorable Minister has indicated, Africa remains the only continent in the world that is referred to in these terms, Anglophone, to mean that we are a sphere of our erstwhile colonizers. About 2 weeks ago, there was a meeting of the Commonwealth in London, England. And a friend of mine who is an Anglophile sent me the photograph very gleefully, saying this is a meeting of 53 equal states. I told him, no. If it was so, why is it that the leadership of the Commonwealth is hereditary rather than rotational? In other words, in the minds of the British, her former colonies are still under her tutelage. And I want to submit to us that in the minds of what I'll call the conceptual West, they think they have a divine duty to instruct Africans what to do.
True.
And in the minds of many African leaders, they think that they have a divine duty to accept what they are told. That, in my view, is what the Honorable Minister was talking about, the mindset. And this is something that has been examined. We have seen France and its very pernicious presence in Africa. We know what they did in Burkina Faso against Thomas Sankara. We know what they did in Mali or the Sudan against Modibo Keita or against Sekou Touré in Guinea. Pernicious to the core. The Portuguese, we know what battles had to be fought in that area. And let me put this very bluntly. When the former leader of Portugal, Marcelo Caetano, was asked, why can you not allow the colonies to gain independence? This is what he said in substance. As I have examined world history over the years, the following have emerged. That the Caucasians have been responsible for monumental discoveries in the development of man. So have the Chinese, so have the Arabs. But the Africans have been responsible for nothing. They are only fit as hewers of wood and drawers of water. And I want to submit to you who are present here that in the conceptual West's unguarded moments, that is what they think. And that is how they relate to Africa. So the whole idea that they will interfere is something that they think is their God-given duty. I said there were two speeches in 1963 that I wanted to refer to. I referred to David Dacko. The second one was the speech by Kwame Nkrumah. And Kwame provided the solution. He did not complain about colonialism. He said, we must live here with one army, with one command. We must live here with one currency. We must live here with one currency, one country. I do not know where its capital will be, but I suggest Leopoldville or Bangui. Other leaders may have their thoughts. Kwame was right, but who listened to him? Several years down the line, and I've said it in my paper, there were coup d'etats which were engineered, there were mutinies which were engineered, and other forms of destabilization. And I want to believe that the person who actually said it very well in the 1980s was the former American President Ronald Reagan. He said, the United States of America does what is in her best interest. And I agree with him. Does Africa do what is in her best interest? Do African leaders do?
Good afternoon, and thank you again for joining us. This is the People's Court, where we get to give you the topics and you get to have your opinion, or even if you have something else out there you want us to talk about, this is your forum, and your views is what makes the show today. So with me on the set is none other than Dr. David Matanga.
Thank you very much, Miriam. The People's Court today, we have, as PLO Lumumba was saying and lecturing to people, we want to continue from where he ended. Is there democracy? Is there dialogue? Do these two things bring us a conflict? Mm-hmm. Those are the questions we want to look at as Africans. Do we, as a result of lack of one of the two, yes, there is a conflict
in Africa.
Many African countries, from Mali, you saw Mali government, younger men, demonstrators were on the streets. They want a change, and they want a person they are interested in. The president of Mali chose a prime minister, a former friend, a finance minister. They don't still want him, but they have accepted, they went back. You see in Sudan, demonstrators are on the streets of Sudan, capital Khartoum, saying we want everybody who was part and parcel of Bashir to be out of government. What is the problem? Is it, have we lacked dialogue? Have we lacked democracy? Do we have both? Do we use all of them? And what do they bring They bring at the end of, if you miss one of these two,
yes,
the resultant factor is conflict. So are these conflicts earmarked to get the people of Africa, stagnate them, bring them to a stagnation point where they cannot function, but keep on running conflicts and conflicts in every African country? We see our defense budgets ballooning up in many of the African countries. Defense budgets have ballooned because people have to fight to stop to make sure that the conflicts are stopped. We have seen in Uganda, for example, for the last 20 or 30 years or so, since independence, since 1985 to about 2008, is when 2006 is when the last conflict got off and got out of Uganda, after some of us agreeing to take part to agree on which format we want. Do we have the mechanisms to stop these conflicts? The People's Court can tell us several questions. I can see so many people have already started asking. I can see the conflicts. The question is in the People's Courts, dialogue, democracy. If the two or one of them is missing,
it's a recipe for disaster. And
there is a conflict.
We cannot separate dialogue from democracy, but also I think it's how these two, especially our African leaders, choose to apply when it fits them. When they have something to protect or it's serving their interest, then less dialogue. But when it's not serving them, then we don't find the need for dialogue. Why are we dialoguing? And I think democracy, how we have embraced democracy, it's like we want to act as if we are democratized, because many African countries, when you look at the sense of democracy and how they have accepted democracy and how even democracy is applied in different African countries, you live to wonder, are you fully in acceptance of democracy, or are you going to pick bits and pieces of democracy and apply it when it really suits you? So we want to act as if we are democratized, but really we've not fully embraced democracy.
Is there, first of all,
so we're in a crisis.
Is there, first of all, democracy? Where is there superb democracy? Where can I see on the African continent?
Well,
where can I see?
Mauritius is leading.
Mauritius.
And I think when it comes to democracy, when you
they are having elections, by the way.
In terms of political stability, I think that's the yardstick in which democracy is being measured with. When it comes to, is there peaceful transition? Is the systems working for the people? So Mauritius.
Does peaceful transition mean there is democracy?
It's sort of a political stability.
Peaceful transition
brings that. Yes,
means there is democracy.
Level of maturity and acceptance.
I think the word I was looking for is the level of maturity. Because you can transfer power, but you have no level of maturity.
Yes.
And some of these African countries, look at Mali, look at Algeria, look at Sudan. All of them are falling. And when you look at what is the factor behind all this collapse, are there trigger mechanisms in African Union? Do we have African Union as a body leading us? Do they hold a summit to say, hey, let's check ourselves, let's criticize ourselves, let African leaders, let the rest of journalists go out? Every time I go to this African Union, I've been going there for almost 33 years, all summits, including the one that changed the African Union, the OAU to African Union in South Africa, Sun City. I was there. I saw everything, what Gaddafi brought. But the leaders chase us out, and we think they are doing something very good. Then they come out, the same problem. Now, has African Union done anything according to you, the People's Courts? You can call us on any of our numbers, you can write, and we shall hear you. Has African Union done something that can change Africa? Is there dialogue in Africa? Is there dialogue?
And I think that is why African Union was formed. But so far, when one of our viewers here, and Ugo, you're saying AU scam, I think, from Nigeria, meaning AU is a scam. And indeed, AU is the biggest scam that Africa has ever seen, because this is a combination of leadership that we've put out there, up on top of, our leaders, to see that our interest is being served. But so far, that is not what has been happening at the AU. So actually, it's the biggest scam. And I would agree with one of our viewers here.
Miriam, does AU, for example, have a strategic plan of what they want to do with democracy in Africa?
Because it's a club of people who don't even understand democracies. Remember,
it's a club of
made
people,
by member countries who
a club of people of the fearful.
Of the fearful, and they protect each other and they protect their interests. And this is a club of African leadership presidents who do not even recognize democracies in their own country. So if you think they'll sit at the AU to start discussing democracy and how we should strengthen democracy in Africa, then that will be a sham. We'll be expecting too much from these people. It's just a league of people who are out there to just protect their interests and their own, protect themselves and the bad things they've done. And because a lot of them have been caught in a lot of these problems and have these issues in their home area, so it's very difficult even for them to point out at another African country when they're going wrong in terms of democracy. They don't have the moral authority.
Paulo Kagi says Sudanese people are calling for freedom, peace, and justice, and they are calling to pull out from Arab League, and they said AU must also be left, must be checked. They are here, he has written just now. Nigeria is killing innocent people of Biafra, and the AU never done anything about it.
Yes.
So these are some of the checks. Why is the killing, the word conflict, arises as a result of what? Is it we miss dialogue, we miss interrelations, to get, what do I call it? Talking, understanding. We talk at each other. We don't talk to each other. Most African countries, people talk at each other.
Yes, so nobody really sees.
There's nobody. If you look at Kenya after elections, everybody was talking at each other. Until Uhuru stood up and said, no, I will talk to you. And Dr. Raila Amolo Odinga also said, I will talk to you.
Yes.
That the acrimonious situation
was diffused.
Yes. We came back to a sense of being as Kenyans. That type of life of sitting down and looking at yourselves and say, this is our country, we are burning our country, the country is going down. Is that sense everywhere? Look at Uganda.
Those are progressive dialogues that should be encouraged.
Yes, progressive dialogue. Uganda has created dialogue avenues. Organizations taking money. People are chairmen sitting on organizations that take money.
Yes.
But in actual sense, there's no dialogue there. There's no dialogue in Uganda. You look at the way the Uganda government is prosecuting, not persecuting, but prosecuting its own end. Because it is giving this young man publicity. And one of the things that why Hitler was able to win a war against heavy nations until all of them combined to kill one nation was propaganda. And this guy, the young man, is doing great propaganda on them. They are talking at him. They are not talking to him.
But should you propose probably a dialogue between President Museveni and, say, Bobby Wine? What will be the content of that dialogue? Don't run for presidency?
President Uhuru was not bad when he chose Raila to talk.
But see, that's a very different scenario.
No, wait. It is more or less, it was worse.
Yes.
Miguna had brought national resistance movement. Don't worry the masses that were here on the swearing day.
Yes.
So it was worse than that one that we see in Uganda.
Yes.
Because one of the things that the Uganda politics has is this young man might end up dying like Okonko, alone. And then people got with flowers and they say, oh, he was a very good singer. Yes, because in Uganda, people have not reached a level of very vicious violence. The level that we see.
Democracy.
The level of vicious, there is vicious violence in the nature, in the yearning for democracy. The viciousness of yearning for democracy.
The aggressiveness.
Yeah, people say, let him rule, man.
People are tired.
Yes, let him rule. When he finishes, we shall come. There are many. And in Uganda scenario, ask me. Ask me, I will tell you why some of us have kept quiet. Is that attitude. A Ugandan will go and insult you and ask you, why are you negotiating for Konyi? Those were the questions they asked me. Then when the peace was brought, they again said, thank you very much for the peace. Oh, that guy is very good. He managed it. Konyi went away to Central Africa, wherever he can die from. That's the Uganda we have. So we have people like that in our midst in Africa. You see, we have, there is no viciousness for democracy. We have a viciousness for democracy in countries like Ukraine. When they say they are fed up, they are fed up.
And they act on it.
They come for you. You know, they got civil servants and they were putting them in dustbins. That was Ukraine. All MPs were put in dustbin. They woke up and said, every MP getting out of that parliament, get him and in the bin, lock the bin, throw his suitcase there. That is the viciousness of democracy. The people want democracy. When they want it, they want it.
They want it, yes.
But in Uganda and other countries, in Africa, East Africa especially, there are no people who can stay. If you want a demonstration from Kibera to Uhuru Park, first look behind every second. Because you might be alone.
Yes.
You might be alone. But what brings us to the level of the conflict? Miriam?
Because sometimes when you feel like the other side you're not being heard and somebody wants to rule with an iron fist and you feel, come on, we need even a space to express ourselves, so we have to fight for it.
But there are factors. Factors like corruption. For example, we have a lot of corruption going on. In most of the African countries, 3/4 of the countries in Africa are in the worst corruption index. There is eating of resources. If you tell me that Bashir had over 110 million,
113 million US dollars.
113 million US dollars
in his
stashed
residence, yes, in
a place somewhere when natives needed bread which could be brought. I told you that Sudan was the only place where you cannot get a credit card, a machine working. If that machine had to work, the credit card must be Sudanese. An outside machine credit card does not work.
Why is that?
It was on sanctions.
Yes.
So if someone has kept dollars,
so visa,
in Sudan, if you go with your dollars, your money from Kenya and it gets finished, sorry, just hand yourself to the police until you can send somebody to Nairobi to put money on a Kenya resident or the ambassador to come and pay, then you will pay them. Yeah, once the money is gone, it's gone. That's how it is in Sudan. So when you look at the type of corruption, the amount of corruption, the structures of corruption, which are bottlenecks that lead to a conflict, you look at how people have zoomed money, the dam money, Camrel, and Aero, and then Arol, Camrel. Look at all the money that has been eaten. In the first 5 years, His Excellency President Uhuru was sleeping, as Makau Mukurwa says. President was sleeping on one side, while some people were enjoying the money in huge number.
You think he was sleeping or he was just being passive?
I think there is passiveness is a very big word.
When you're passive, you're like you just assume.
No, it is over-trusting.
Over-trusting.
Can we use the word, the president over-trusted people to function. People undermined him. That's where the state of affairs in the people's court, what the president feels today.
And because he
was undermined.
Yes.
Let's be honest. You can't beat about the bush. He feels betrayed because if I have given you my suitcase to keep, then you go on taking one cloth out of the suitcase. The time I come for the suitcase, it is empty. Then you ask, no, you left it closed, but it is empty. Then where did the contents go? So the time when it came to asking where the contents, or let anybody, people account for some of the things that are coming now, he created enmity. And that is, we passed the stage of dialogue, we passed the stage of democracy. Now we are heading to a stage of a conflict. That's why you see there is a conflict. Conflict does not mean there is violence. Conflict does not mean there are killings. Conflict does not mean there is blood flowing. Conflict could be a bloodless conflict where politics is torn to pieces into two camps. You know very well we have two camps.
Yes, it's very...
This is a bloodless conflict. There is no blood yet. But if it moves to real stage, which is the red stage, it could reach a feast where MPs in the parliament from both sides and from the ruling party itself will set on each other whom they want. They want the Uhuru or they want Ruto. That is the politics where we are heading. This is exactly what is inside here. And nobody should tell you a lie that we this smoke screen, people telling us we are okay. We are not okay. There is no okay here. There is a what Makau Mutua wrote is exactly what is here. You cannot underestimate his words. The rocking has been rocked. The money is in few hands. The people who are able to fly, you can't fly. The rain is starting and the flying and the roads will be impossible because the money for the roads has been eaten.
You wait until they start blocking the drainage system.
The drainage system today, now it has poured. If you go to Nairobi, the governor of Nairobi working without a deputy, that is conflict. It's a paperless, it's a violent, non-violent conflict occurring in Nairobi. In case the governor...
We forgot we don't have a deputy governor. It's been over a year.
Imagine if the governor, by some form of God, something happens to the governor.
It's a crisis for the
who takes over? The Constitution of the Republic of Kenya does not give anybody the powers to take over as acting governor. From who? From the two.
Because even the county speaker is in problem.
Yes, so the county speaker is gone. She's no longer there. She's on forced, evacuation. She was evacuated from the house.
Literally.
Under high security.
Yes.
Because of corruption scandals, allegedly. So these are some of the things that we look at in Africa.
In Africa. And also speaking about some of the countries that are considered to have a very stable democracy, like Botswana, they still have their own problems. President Masisi was leaving. He handpicked, President Akama, he handpicked Masisi now, and he thought, I think the same way Kabila thought Tshisekedi, maybe they'll work together. Now Tshisekedi wants to be his own person. So it's a problem now. That is a conflict. And also in Botswana, Masisi wants to be his own person, and Kama is not liking that at all. And
when you look at Tshisekedi, he has moved towards the opposition. And he has, for example, instead of dialogue, he has moved quickly to jump into bed with Katumbi, because he has helped, he has, what can we say?
Actually, he made sure Katumbi came back because Katumbi had sought asylum.
Yes, Katumbi is back.
Yes,
his case has been dropped.
Yes.
You see,
yes.
That is a conflict brewing because the powers be who surrendered this power will remain anxious. Remember, they have the parliament. They have the Senate.
In everything, the governors. In everything.
So this is it started with dialogue, handing over power, coming to democracy. It will refuse. So when it refuses, it sends you to hell, which is conflict.
Yes.
And the Congo now has special other conflicts that are coming. ISIS is in Congo. You saw my article. ISIS is in Congo. The president of Congo, Tshisekedi, told the Washington congressmen and the Washington and the Americans to help him to fight ISIS. ISIS seemed to have been planted in Congo. From nowhere. Yes, and we up to now they are now looking for where to fix them. There is someone who controls them. Remember the invasion of Syria, who sparked Obama accepted that he was the one who actually armed the first group of Syrian liberation organizations. And later on the West accepted that all terrorist groups, if they can unite to fight Saddam Hussein, we created ISIS.
Yes.
Here we are.
We're left with the crisis now to deal with.
Yes.
And because it's people's court, let's just get some of the people's opinion and what they have to say this afternoon. Paul Kagi, you're saying they say the AU is not doing anything. People's Revolution in Sudan warned all traditional parties led by leaders who are over 60s. They were advising them to take back seats. They want to form People's Party. Also, they want to cut diplomatic ties with Egypt and some key Arab world because they want to implement Sharia law in Sudan while in their countries. So these are some of the queries Paul Kagi is saying is still keeping the protesters in the streets in Khartoum, some of the things they want addressed. And also Oko Ajake, you're saying we low from Ethiopia, Gambele and yours, we need help from all over the world. Okay, I don't know what kind of help you could elaborate on that. And Francis Jengo is saying Pope Francis' feet keys of South Sudanese president is not bearing any fruit. Evil dictator Kiir is still preparing to kill and displace more people in Equatorial region. And so just keep writing to us. BR Garang, you're saying Dr. David Matanga, you're absolutely right. Nairobi County cannot work without a deputy governor. And also I think Paul, you're saying that they wanted Sudanese army to be brought back from Yemen, let Saudi Arabia go to fight for themselves. People's Revolution warned all African students studying international university in Khartoum must leave within 3 days. Those students are Islamic militant. Sudan is no longer a place for terrorists. So these are just some of your sentiments. Please keep writing to us. This is the People's Court. So your opinion actually really counts here. So some of the issues that our viewers are raising, so Francis Jengo thinks the Pope kissing the feet of the Sudanese leader is not bearing fruit. But also remember over Easter, when he was giving his Easter message, President Salva Kiir actually reached out to his deputy Machar and told him to come back urgently so that they can actually start implementing the peace process. It's not something, I think that must have triggered something. The feet kissing from the Pope must have triggered that action.
Which one?
From President Kiir to even think of reach out to Machar and tell him to come back urgently. But of course, Machar is saying until proper security measures are put in place.
Because he knows, Salva Kiir knows the consequences.
Yes.
The consequences of Pope's kissing the feet of rebels or warlords.
Yes.
Is very high.
It is.
That if you go back to pick a pen, a gun again, if you pick a gun and fight again in Sudan, you are finished. I've told you to go and read the Mafia, the setting of Italian state and the setting of the Vatican.
Yes.
Why the Vatican is a parallel institution working on its own as a country in the world. You will understand.
Yes.
The powers, the Pope, Rome, was being invaded by Italy was being invaded by barbarians, the Constantinoples of the barbarian groups.
Yes.
Machiavelli went, Sicily was already organized state. Rome was an organized state. The Pope was in control. This is way back 16th, 15th, 14th century. It's not very, very near here. We have all those centuries. So you can see the growth of the Catholic Church, the Holy See. What they say is the end. They are closer to God than any other state in Europe or in the world.
They're closer than Israel.
Yes.
The Holy Land.
The Holy Land is for, yeah, but the Holy Land we don't have. We don't have a primo.
Yes.
The Anglican, we disagreed. We went a different way.
Yes.
Because of the ceremonies of wedding and
yes.
the way of prayer.
Judaism, yes. But also just before I came here a while back, the AU emergency summit on Sudan and Libya is actually taking place today in Egypt. And the update is President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who is the current president of the African Union, is hosting African leaders for discussions on the evolution of the situation in Sudan, where President Omar al-Bashir was, of course, toppled, and also they're looking at the crisis in Libya. Is it a little too late for them to be looking at the crisis in Libya?
How do you do?
I know the irony of it all.
President al-Sisi, you know people don't want the truth.
Yes.
I will talk the truth. Egypt, United Arab Emirates, France, equipped, supplied, and gave arms to General Khalifa Haftar. France gives General Khalifa Haftar from the ship in Mediterranean Sea. Planes are overseeing the bombing that is taking place in Tripoli. Now you tell me how Egypt stupidly called for a meeting of an African Union to discuss how they armed Khalifa Haftar to go through the desert all the way to kill a UN-backed government, which we know that the entire UN, AU, had backed.
And
so why do we, yes.
Just a small detail here, I forgot. Among those who are attending today's meetings, the president that are actually present at that meeting, not all African presidents, heads of state are present, is the president of Chad, Rwanda, Congo-Brazzaville, Somalia, Djibouti, South Africa. You tell me.
What are those?
Outside of South Africa.
What is South Africa going to tell you?
Somalia, Djibouti.
What does Somalia? Chad.
Maybe Rwanda.
Rwanda, yes. Kagame can speak.
Yes.
But what will South Africa do, which actually helped to dismember
Libya?
Yeah. The only thing is, it is not Zuma, it is Ramaphosa. I like Ramaphosa. Because Ramaphosa could be very frank. And I hope Ramaphosa can be frank and tell Egypt that the chairmanship of Egypt is useless this year. Because Egypt armed Haftar. General Khalifa Haftar was armed from Egyptian army to go and destroy Tripoli. We cannot hide anymore. The planes, how can a rebel have planes that are able to bomb?
Military.
And a rebel?
No, not just planes, military planes.
Military sophisticated who can bomb from very far and go away.
All the way from Benghazi to Tripoli.
And return to Benghazi. So there must be a country or countries that are supporting. So instead of wasting our time, meetings and the taxpayers' money all over Africa saying they are going to hold a meeting, General al-Sisi, he's meeting while he's extending his power.
He already did.
What democracy will you say, tell us?
I think they finished
the counting of votes will give him until God calls him. So what type of, what is Africa? I told you AU is captured. And you did not listen to me. Look at the countries that are there. What can Somalia give in terms of Africa. Oh, it is presence of a flag and a hotel.
And Djibouti.
To run away from what is in Mogadishu.
And Chad.
What can Chad, a thief, a president called by Dabi, a thief who is bribed $2 million. A man who bribed the president of Chad
is serving term, has finished.
Is serving term
yes.
in the United States of America. What can he tell the world? That I am here to negotiate what? He is the one who sponsored the overthrow of Gaddafi, of Bashir. The money that overthrew Khartoum came from Jamena. Let Africa know that all these things are happening. You can walk Museveni, who, Kikegedi, what, everything.
Yes.
These people are planting this money everywhere. And by the time we realize, we shall be under very strict conditions where we need to beg help from these guys to come and rescue us. That's how the colonialism works. That's how neo-colonialism mentality. They push you to the end, isolate you. It is like a cell. The disease, the germs isolate the cell, weaken it, then push it to fall. That's what they have done to Africa. Mali is falling anytime.
Yeah, there's a crisis in Mali as you speak.
Yes. So those are some of the things that Africa has to watch out for, because we have a problem. Egyptian president cannot call for a meeting to do what?
He cannot solve the
Kenya
problem.
is on the Security Council. I hope the foreign minister is there. But what shall we get out of there? France, we are playing. Kenya is playing very tactful in order to have a United Nations seat. So it will try to appease everybody.
Yes.
So Africa, until we have a Nyerere.
Somebody who's selfless.
Yes. Nyerere, who said, I recognize Biafra. Obote, who said, I recognize Biafra. Kaunda said, I recognize Biafra. Haile Selassie said, I recognize Biafra. You see? That when they said that, 7 African countries, 17 of them came on board and recognized Biafra in 1967 war, which was later on negotiated in Kampala, my capital. That's why I'm attached to the Biafran issue. 1967 war, my father took me there. I was there, he left me at my uncle's, and I lost my shoes. I don't know why. I put the shoes in a bag, and I think I left it at the bus park. Those days, bus station, the stand. Those days, there were very good bus stands with buses running every 10, 25 minutes, 15 minutes. There was a bus. And then I heard on the radio when they were announcing that a Biafran delegate went missing in Kampala. I think the Nigerian Gowan government killed that guy. We don't know up to now. So until Africa gets its leaders who can speak without fear, they say, yes, you Assisi, you are calling us for a meeting, but you are the one who sent after to go and destroy Tripoli.
But have you seen the countries that have accepted to be part of that talk? So
yes.
That is very telling also.
It is telling they are all French.
Others remove.
They are going towards French.
That's also very telling. And Paul Kagin saying Egyptians are fighting to chase away Africa workforce and replace them with Egyptians' manpower. Another xenophobia brewing up there in Egypt. Yes. And Mozal Marial, you're saying, who is Riek Machar? Is he South Sudanese? Only who can lead Nuer? Only their PhD holder. I cannot understand among them. As in, is Riek Machar the only person with a PhD holder from the Nuer community?
No, there are many.
Many of them. I think
don't underrate.
South Sudan are very.
Don't underrate PhD. No, there are many. The Nus and the Dinkas your differences should not play around here. We are trying to unite a country. That is, we are trying to bring dialogue.
Maybe Mozal Marial, over the weekend, President Kiir reached out to Riek Machar and told him to come back so that they can start the peace process. Maybe you should tell us, do you think it's a good thing, or do you think is it the environment, is this favorable? What is your opinion on that? We want to hear about that. About that.
Let me tell you, I've told you time and time again, my sister.
Yes.
The only solution for South Sudan
is a UN Security Council.
Yes, the doorsteps.
The doorsteps, yeah.
To our watch upper. We take them to the United Nations Security Council entries.
After the kiss, you would think things will be different.
The kiss is not working. I told you.
Maybe we give you time. It's only been 2 weeks.
But Riek will not go to South Sudan. He saw what happened. Riek escaped, walked 1,000 miles. The distance Riek walked, if you go by car, you will take 2 days, almost. If you leave 8 in the morning, you will arrive in Juba 2 a.m. at night. Are those not almost 2 hours, 2 days? That is the distance Riek walked. You think you can take him back to walk again when he saw that? So there's something wrong with this agreement that they need to rearrange such that there is a permanent ceasefire. The only organ in the world that can arrange, and that when the people are seen there, someone can have confidence that I have AU, I have AU, no UN peacekeepers. That's it. That's the time that someone will keep quiet and never try to shoot the other. And this peacekeeper, not peacekeepers, I think they are actually peace shooters.
We don't peacekeepers now.
They don't know.
Peace shooters. And who will they
They must have a mandate to shoot and kill.
Who?
Anybody who violates the forget about the UNIMIS. We need a new brigade, a new format in Juba that will keep peace between Riek and the Salva Kiir forces. So until the only country, the only organization, with the help of the Americans, which has got the money to sustain such a peacekeeping force, not the UNIMIS, or we turn the UNIMIS into a peace, keep both shooting. If you violate the law, they shoot you. Because the UNIMIS only does humanitarian and protection. It protects itself.
Yes, and Francis Jengo here, you're saying, I agree with you, Doctor. UN is the only solution. The kiss is not working. Is it not too soon to call it?
My friend, my dear sister.
Let's be patient. I'm just hopeful. I'm just
after the kiss,
yes.
Pope kisses you, your blood changes. But when Pope kissed Riek, the blood never changed.
We don't know that for sure.
Salva Kiir, the blood.
You have established that he really can't go back to Khartoum because of the security concerns.
Yeah. That means the blood has not changed. His blood and the conscience is telling him, if you go to Khartoum, you'll be killed.
From experience, anybody.
From the experience, I've told you, the man walked.
Yes.
All the way with that weight and height. He walked all the way. The place there where Riek walked, let me tell you, is where he went to get the helicopter. I have walked there with him. When we went for Konyi in the Garamba Park, in the Rikwamba and all those places. Please, I know the place. Where he got the UN helicopter, I know it. It's not very near. So even you have to agree with Riek to some extent that it is difficult for him to return when there are no guarantees.
Yes, his concerns are very legitimate.
Yeah.
And someone here is saying Chad is under time bomb, too influenced by the revolution in Sudan. Kiir was warned by the revolution leader in Sudan to stop aiding Omar al-Bashir's system. Kiir offers South Sudan oil fields free for 1 year to support military council while they shedding crocodile tears, signing song of no funding to implement peace. Okay, those are your sentiments. Thank you so much. John Paul, you're saying Sudanese has taken the bold step. I don't know in what way. You could tell us in which way. So apparently, Kiir was aiding Omar al-Bashir in what way? Offering him the oil fields? I don't think so. Was he?
You know, the whole problem is Riek has found a very good excuse.
Scapegoat.
Yeah. Where he wants to go is in chaos. You can't go there when the place is in chaos.
They might hand you over.
Yeah, not even hand over, but they might also kill you.
Yes.
You know?
Because they have.
We don't know what the generals were of the approval of this peace process. They haven't come out to tell how Riek can just come. And they have not assured us. And they are suspended from the organs. Therefore, they can't hold any other peace process. So the place where Riek was supposed to go is under turmoil.
It's under turmoil, and you know the person that had given him was hosting him is no longer there. So these new people in place may not even have him in mind. So it might be a bit tricky for him. And Esono Mayeke, you're saying we are calling on the AU and United Nations to ask Cameroon to respect its territorial boundary as obtained at independence in 1960. Then Southern Cameroon was still under UN trusteeship. Southern Cameroon, aka Ambazonia, has never been part of Cameroon. So there you go. Biafra, Ambazonia, South Sudan. Ambazonian here saying AU and UN, it's about time.
I have talked about the UN. It is the only way. If you bring a tribunal in Sudan, let's have it.
All right.
Bring a tribunal.
Yeah.
You know, after coming back to Juba, one question will haunt the peace process. Can I tell it to you? The people who died.
Yes. Justice, how is it going to be served?
I've looked at the agreement.
It has not addressed that.
Yes. I looked at the agreement brokered. Accountability is not strongly.
It's lacking.
Yeah, it's not strongly mentioned.
Was it? Do you think it's a maybe in the effort of just reaching out and handshake and what? Maybe they're trying to bury some of these things and maybe start on a clean slate. That's why they're not very strong on accountability.
How can you bury 384 people?
1,000.
Yes.
It's difficult to wish those souls away.
Which international community is going to accept?
Somebody has to be accountable. Yes. And their feet are still being kissed. It's very wonderful. We had a video before we forget, and our time is...
Yeah, our time is running. Let's get the video of New Uganda Airlines.
Yes.
2 planes arriving. Why?
Bombair.
And then Mr. Museveni tells the world that he doesn't borrow money.
He does not.
Did you hear that?
He does not borrow money. Who is he telling? And
ask. Put the video. This is the people's...
With these few words, it is my pleasure to kutongoza Uganda Airlines and wish you... No, I need to thank the Parliament. Kuluno, but Parliament has been doing well these days. Parliament because when we came to this one, they really supported us. They supported us. And I want to tell you, we paid cash for these aircraft. There are people who like to borrow. I don't want to mention them. Abantu bagala nnyo okwewola ssente, abantu abo bagala nnyo okwewola. Omuso gwako bantu benda ino amabanda. Now, they were running around, we should borrow from I don't know what, which group. I said, but what do you have to borrow? We can pay for this plane. This is an important operation. It's not these other things which you can borrow for.
President Yoweri Museveni, he's very proud of his achievement. Do you think it has anything to do with the campaigns now that he is...
Let's see. I think our team can guess at the 2 planes that came. If you can also bring the 2 planes as we talk.
From Canada.
From Canada, they are called, what are they? They are called what?
Bombardier or something like that.
Bombardier.
Yes.
The Bombardiers. Yesterday, a friend of mine laughed at me.
Why?
I posted about these planes. Then a friend of mine wrote a very good post on his Facebook timeline. He said, one governor in Kenya
yes,
has 4 of those Bombardiers, cash. And then he said Uganda is celebrating for bringing on the 2, a whole nation. So he gave me a lot of, I was very sick the whole evening. Because he said, Uganda,
no, because it's a very
the governor bought his 4 Bombardiers in cash. And he's just a governor of a county in Kenya.
What business is that governor?
So I replied to this guy.
Who is he working for?
I know the guy. I replied this guy and said, it was very painful because I could not imagine a governor of a county
yes,
in Kenya has 4 Bombardiers, the similar ones, the same.
Yes. And
they pay the cash.
Yes.
He has no loan. So when other people are looking for money, there are people in this world who have money.
You know that is the kind of plane that you will not really take. The one you say has 2 engines or something like that.
No, it is a good plane.
Is it?
But that one has 4.
It has 4.
Yeah, you can't have 2 engines and fly from Canada up to here.
To here. But it
has 4 or 6 engines. So if one goes wrongly, you can land on the other 4 or 3 yes, or 5.
So did this guy mention which governor is this?
Yes, okay. But unfortunately, the governor is a friend of mine and he has never been accused of anything. So I will not mention the name here. I will only tell you offline when you are not on the show.
But President Museveni is very proud of his achievements, what his government is doing.
The Uganda Airlines came out of East African Airways. It was a very powerful airline. There you are, the planes. Those are the Bombardiers. You look at them. One governor here has 4 of those paid cash.
I don't know why I find.
And the worst thing, what annoyed me is that they will only function to work in July.
What? Why?
Why? I don't know.
They're not ready yet.
That was why are they not ready? Then why did they bring them?
Because they've already been paid. They have the Ugandan colors and logo and all that. I thought they're ready to start flying.
I think they haven't even paid the airspace, parking fee, spaces. Yeah, you know, every air you pass, you have to pay money.
Yeah. And yes, someone here is saying 70,000 innocent people killed in South Sudan, and 3.5 million were refugees because of still refugees, not war. I think we still have South Sudanese refugees here in Kenya, and a lot of them in Uganda. I think Uganda is hosting the biggest number of South Sudanese refugees, and followed by Kenya closely. So they still are there. So yes, somebody has to be accountable. Somebody has to be accountable. And all right, people, I think one or two of our viewers here really in a very bitter exchange, so I'll skip that. Don Scanty, they have an exchange between themselves. You're saying our network is biased. In what way, Mr. Don Scanty?
He's very scanty himself. Don't listen to him. Our network is open. We talk the things. Maybe he wants us to praise one political king here or the other. Okay. Whom do you want us to praise? We can sing it for tonight, for today. Tell us.
Please help us. What caption? Because only some countries are very peaceful in Africa. Yeah, we didn't say all of African countries are at conflict. We were just trying to understand dialogue, democracy, and conflict in Africa. Has it worked, especially in some of these troubled countries in Africa and that have been conflict-ridden? So you're trying to see these three mechanisms, which one has been the most effective, depending on which country they've been applied. So dialogue in Kenya, we've seen it work. We've seen dialogue work in some other African countries. We've seen other African countries where democracies are strong and is really functioning very well. Matter of fact, I mentioned a few who are considered very strong democracies in Africa, starting with Mauritania, and also conflict. How are we? Our conflict resolution mechanisms, how is it working?
Yes.
Does it work for Africa? So basically, we're just looking at it at a nutshell. So we're not trying to be biased or lean.
And we want to be very sincere that 3/4 of African countries are on the precipice of disaster.
Disaster, very undemocratic.
Yes.
So we
they are falling there,
yes.
Not on cliffhanger
yes.
politics.
Yes.
Look at the conflict, which is looking at itself in Asmara,
yes.
Eritrea.
Eritrea ratified a new constitution in 1997. It has, it has never it has never been used. It has never been implemented since Eritrea.
So. Yes. Thank you very much. I think, Miriam,
yes.
we've done our best.
I think we have.
The People's Court today, we have discussed those things, and we conclude by saying the two components, dialogue and democracy, to some extent they are growing in Africa, but to some they are being destroyed,
yes.
which will lead to conflict.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. And we want to thank you so much, all our viewers. And yeah, thank you for engaging with us. Don Scanty, thank you. And please keep joining us. Maybe if you watch a lot of our broadcasts, you'll sometimes understand where we're coming from. Maybe I've not seen you here before, but thank you. And, you know, we value your opinion, so keep writing to us. And all of you who have engaged with us this afternoon, thank you so much. And I hope we can meet here tomorrow for a new edition of Good Morning Africa.
I think Don Scanty is saying, go and correct the caption, because only some countries are very peaceful in Africa. That's what we want. Have these ingredients, have they worked? We have explained the democracy in some countries in Africa have not worked.
Not worked.
We want to be we want you to be part and parcel of us, Mr. Scanty. So let's educate you a bit. Some of the countries have not worked, some have worked, some have not, they have none of the two. Like Biafra, like Nigeria, like Cameroon, they have none of the two. They are about to fall into anarchy.
It has resulted to conflict.
Conflict,
of those
yes.
countries, yes.
That's what we are saying. That was the meaning.
All right. I hope your concerns have been addressed. If not, we'll be here tomorrow. You can remind us and we can talk about it.
Yeah.
But for now...
Otherwise, you are welcome.
You're welcome very much. So we see them here tomorrow bright and early for...
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I want to make my way to some gym.
Okay.
There was too much eating in the house alone, and I ate a lot cooking on my own.
Okay.
So it has added extra weight. I cannot sit properly.
Oh, okay.
So the food, so I need to run a bit to reduce
the
some carbohydrates.
All right. Okay.
But thank you very much, Miriam.
Thank you.
Beautiful, as usual. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Let's hit the road.
Let's hit the road tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Thank you so
11
much.
p.m.
11 a.m. is
AM.
African time, yes. See you tomorrow.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.